In this video, I'm going to cover Service Autopilot automations from Marketing 180. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brian Stearman. I'm the owner of Marketing 180. We started in 2015 as Lawn Care Marketing Mechanic and recently rebranded to Marketing 180. We offer websites, ranking services, ads management, and automations to our customers, and we're a certified advisor for Service Autopilot and have been for many years. We work with a lot of companies using Service Autopilot, including lawn care companies, pest control companies, landscaping companies, pool companies, and pet waste removal companies, cleaning companies, just to name a few. Now, what type of automations do we offer? We actually offer over 700 automations currently that we have pre-built. And unlike many companies that are doing automations for Service Autopilot users, we don't believe in a one-size-fits-all type automation. So if you don't see the automation that you need or we don't have it, just let us know and we'll build it for you if you're one of our customers. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these individually because we're going to go through them separately on separate slides, but this kind of gives you an idea of what are the type of automations that we offer. Now, before we dive into the individual automations, I do want to show you that each one of our automations uses a numbering system, and that numbering system is used consistently from the automation to the document to the tags and SMS messages. So that way, if something needs to be changed, it can be easily found and updated whenever necessary. So, and the other thing is that during this presentation, I'm going to be using the fertilization and weed control type client as the example. And just know that if you own a different type of company, there are similar automations for these for your type of company available. So to dive in, the first thing that we do is a new lead automations, which is basically the confirmation and lead nurture type process. So basically what happens is when someone requests a quote, we're going to send them some type of automated response. Hey, thanks for requesting a quote. We'll get you a price within X number of minutes. Obviously, if you have a different type of company where you have to go out there and do a quote, we may have a small lead nurture type process associated with that. Again, that's all customized based on your industry. That second one that you see there is attribution. And so one thing that we do that's different than a lot of companies is we actually track where leads are coming from, whether they're coming from Facebook, Google local services, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, QR codes. We want to know where each lead is coming from. That way we can have a better idea of where it makes sense to spend money on ads and where it doesn't. The next thing is the service area check. That's 103 and 104. So all we're doing there is just when a new lead comes in, we're just checking the zip code, making sure that they're actually in your service area. And if they're not, we're just shooting them a message and saying, hey, sorry, we don't service your area. And that's just really built to save your office some time, right? Not processing stuff that isn't necessary. The instant call notification is pretty cool. So what that does is if someone submits a form and it's during business hours, then we will call your office and say, hey, this person just requested a quote, press 1 to give them a call. And so it automatically connects and you call the customer while they're physically filling out the form or they just submitted the form. So it's really top of mind and it just creates a great customer experience for them. The rest of those on there for the most part, until you get down to the QR code, is just tracking stuff for us. That's just the way that we're able to determine which source someone came in on as far as a lead. The QR code is actually for your technicians or people out in the field. So like in the fertilization weed control space, if you have a technician out there and someone stops and sees them out spraying a yard, like, hey, can I get some information about your company? Like you can literally just show them the QR code and it tracks back to the technician that QR code is associated to. That way, if you're paying the technician in some way for getting the lead, then you can use that. Then, of course, we have the quote accepted, and then, of course, the lead can opt out. The next thing is hot lead follow-up automations. And for the fertilization weed control space, we're using about a 15-day follow-up process 7 times. And you can follow up with them via email, SMS text messages, voicemail drops, just to name a few there. And obviously, you don't want to hit them every single time the same way, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing to follow up. And obviously, if you have a landscaping job, you want to make sure that this probably goes out a lot further because that buying cycle is longer. So depending on what you're selling, depends on how long this will actually be ran for. The next thing we have is our welcome and wow automations. These are post sign up emails, text messages, voicemail drops, and triggered phone calls to customers just to ensure that they're happy, make sure that they're getting the service that they need, and really try to just reduce churn is really what it boils down to. Is like, if we can follow up for the first 90 days and make sure that the customer's happy, answer all their questions, make them feel like they're important, we're less likely to lose them as a customer. And that's what Welcome and Wow's for. The next thing we have is payment automations, which isn't real exciting, but if someone signs up for a new service and they don't enter their credit card, then we're going to follow up with them for a couple weeks and just remind them, hey, we need your card to get started. We need your card to get started. We need your card to get started. Obviously, this is for the recurring service type business model. If you do something that doesn't have that, then we wouldn't run this for that particular customer. The next thing that's kind of on the same thing is the payment automations card expiring. So in Service Autopilot, if a card's about to expire, you can trigger off that. And we do that from 30 days out. So basically, when a card's about to expire in 30 days, we just send them a notification. We only hit them about 5 times during the month for that. Obviously, their card's still working at that point, so there's no need to, it's not an emergency. But we do want to remind them that, hey, we're going to need new card information within the next 30 days. Then, of course, if a card fails to charge, we want to follow up with them pretty consistently. And we just have an automation that does that over 20 days. Again, this is based on a fertilization weed control client, right? So they're getting service every, 5-6 weeks, something like that. So you want to make sure that you have a sequence that's consistent with what your billing cycle is. So obviously, if this is a mowing customer, you're going to hit them really hard for a week because most likely they're getting service again in 7 days, right? And so we don't want to continue to do service when we haven't been paid for the last time we did service. So again, this can just be customized based on that. And then we have the credit card updated, which is actually pretty cool because some of those automations can be set up, those earlier automations can be set up to pause jobs. And what happens is a lot of times is the job gets paused, someone puts in a card, it gets updated, and then the service never gets updated it doesn't get unpaused. And so then it gets skipped and you lose the revenue from that. And then the customer's ticked off because you didn't show up and they entered their card, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. So what this does is this creates a ticket to unpause the job when the credit card is updated. So anytime the credit card is updated, we fire off that ticket to make sure that, is the job paused? If it is, then notify someone to unpause that thing. Then we have skip service automations. Skip service automations are real simple. Like when you skip a job, it sends a notification to the customer, or it can send it to you, or it can create a ticket to find out why. There's a lot of different things you can do with the skip service automations. But the big thing is someone probably needs to know about it really quick. And unless they're sitting there on the dispatch board and paying attention, then this just kind of creates a way to make sure something gets done about it. And the other cool thing that we have a couple of customers that actually use Slack in conjunction with this. And what's really cool is we can actually send the Slack notification when a job is skipped. So it's really slick. All right, the next thing is reschedule automation. So whether it's weather, mechanical, running behind, some other reason that you don't get jobs done today, this is the reschedule automations. And basically what happens is we have a reschedule for tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? And so a lot of times it's just, hey, we're going to reschedule tomorrow because of the weather, blah, 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 right? But sometimes maybe that happens on a Friday and you don't want to work the weekend. So you're just going to push everything to Monday. Well, so that's what the Monday's for. So Tuesday would be, hey, if it's supposed to rain on Monday, let's go ahead and you're going to send out a notification on Saturday or Friday. Hey, let's just go ahead and tell them Tuesday. Same thing for the rest of the week, right? Next thing that we do is monthly newsletter automations. So these are sent out once a month. These are kind of a templated type newsletter. So we kind of follow the give, ask type newsletter format. So basically we're going to provide information on what you should be doing this month, things to look out for, that type of thing. And then if you're going to have an offer at all, you need just one offer on that page. So, you can just choose one thing to put on there. And this is also part of like a long-term nurture thing. So once someone is a lead and then they kind of go through the process, we're just going to continue to send them information to stay top of mind is really the goal. Then we have a canceled client automation. So we all lose customers. And at the end of the day, some of them we want back, some of them we don't. And this is kind of what happens. So when someone cancels, we're going to ask you, hey, why did they cancel? Number one. And two, do you want them back as a customer? Right? So if they are moving in the area, then we want to follow up with them, right? Like they're getting another house and they're probably still in our service area. So let's go ahead and continue to follow up with them. So once they get moved and settled in, they continue service. If they're moving out of the service area, we probably don't want to follow up with them, right? Like, so there's no point in continuing to market to those people. And then if they weren't satisfied, do you want them back? Did they go to a competitor? Do you want them back or not? And so all these things trigger other emails that try to get them back, right? And if we don't want them back, then we just leave them alone. Then we have our monthly upsell blitz. Our monthly upsell blitz is a monthly upsell to your existing clients. You do not have to send it out every single month if you don't want to, but it is the opportunity to go out there and ask your current customers to buy other services that you have, right? And so each month we try to kind of just focus on one thing and sell them that. And so during that process, we actually have a 7 email/SMS message type follow-up process, and we send that out throughout the month. Then the last thing there, 1009, they have the option to opt out. And so one of the cool things that we do with all of our automations actually is we give them the ability to opt out of a single thing, right? So do you want to opt out of January upsells? Do you want to opt out of March upsells? Whatever it is. That way they're not opting out of all your stuff. They only get the option to opt out of one thing at a time. Then we have service call automation. So if you're not familiar with these, this is basically like, hey, if you find a weed in your yard after we've provided service for X number of months or whatever, all you need to do is text the word weed to our phone number and we will send someone back out to provide, to resurface the property, right? So that's pretty common in that industry. Same thing with bite. So just to kind of go through these real quick, weed is if they still see weeds or they have weed problems in their yard. Bite if you're selling like mosquito services and they get bit. Bug is if you are a pest control company and they have a spider or whatever, they can call you back out. Bulb is for Christmas lights. So if a bulb is out, they can just text the word bulb and you can go back out there and screw in a new light bulb. For falling is again for Christmas lights. So if like a tree limb or snow or whatever knocked off some lights and they're kind of hanging down, you can type the word falling and come back out. And then the service call email and the service call completed is just our notifications. So obviously we're going to send them some type of confirmation like, hey, we received this thing that you said bite. So we're going to send someone out to redo it, right? So that's that. And then obviously creates a ticket for you and all that type of stuff. Then we have the holiday automations. These are all the holidays that we currently have built in the system. You don't have to use all of these things. This is a lot, but whatever you want to send out, we'll send out. These typically have like an image in them. It's great if you will send us a new image that has like your staff in there wearing Christmas hats and things like that. That all works great. So really just short and sweet to the point, just, some type of acknowledgement of the holiday for your customers. Next thing is our dispatch notifications. So you're probably already doing this to some extent where you're sending out some type of text message or email or something to your customers, letting them know, hey, you're scheduled for tomorrow and blah, 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 right? Same thing. This is exactly what this does. Is it just sends out, hey, we're coming out to provide service to your property, make sure your pets are inside, that your gates are unlocked, that type of thing. Basically just to try to reduce the amount of reservice requirements because of not being able to access the yard or whatever. Then we have our post-service notifications. And these are, again, just so once the service is complete, we actually send out another email or text message or whatever. And a lot of our customers actually record videos and talk about what was actually done. So, hey, in round 1, we did a pre-emergent weed control application, blah, 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 blah. And, these are the things like, does it need to be watered in? Does it not need to be watered in? Those types of things are all addressed in those videos. And if you're not familiar with, or you're not comfortable doing that, just let us know. We actually can do like a voiceover and just do some video footage. Next thing is review automation. So anytime that you've got your servicing customers, you definitely want to be asking for reviews to get more reviews on your Google My Business profile. And that's what these things do. So sometimes these are triggered on like immediately after a service, and sometimes it's like 30 to 45 days, right? So like if you go out to a new customer that has a yard full of weeds, it doesn't make sense. Like, hey, we just sprayed the yard and I know you can't see any results, but why don't you go ahead and leave us a review? That's probably not the best time to ask, right? The right time to ask is after the second treatment, right? So we basically kind of work with you and create what your review automation process needs to look like. And that can be different for a new customer versus an old customer, that type of thing. So there's different ways to go about this, but we do have review automations that are designed to try to get you some more reviews on Google and Facebook. Next thing is deep lawn automation. So a lot of people are using deep lawn with Service Autopilot these days, and deep lawn automations are super cool. It's really not any different on one end as far as someone requests a quote and you just follow up. It's a lead nurture sequence type thing, right? And so, and really it's just like a hot lead follow-up, right? So you're just going to follow up with them for 15 days or whatever and make sure that they got your quote and had any questions or whatever, and just try to convert them to a customer. Now, the cool thing about Deep Lawn's API that we have with them is it works the other way. And actually, let me go back. The Deep Lawn automations, the way those work, if you're not familiar with them, is Deep Lawn has an interface that you put a form on your website, and someone types in their address, they enter in their name, email, and phone number, and it generates pricing based off of a pricing matrix and gives them all the options. And it's kind of like an Amazon for lawn care, right? And so Deep Lawn actually automatically measures all the turf in the yard or the actual lot size or whatever and gives them those prices. So that's really cool if someone goes to your website, but the problem is like if they come from Facebook lead ads or someone in your office or something like that, they would have to still go out to the website in order to get that information. And with our Deep Lawn API, we actually have the ability to push information into Deep Lawn and get it back into Service Autopilot. And the way that works is basically if someone fills out a Facebook lead form, we take that information from Facebook, we push it over into Deep Lawn. Deep Lawn measures the property, gives us the prices, sends that back to us. We send that back to Service Autopilot, and then we can follow up with them with their pricing and everything all automatically without anyone in your office ever touching it. So, and that's true for Facebook Messenger, Facebook lead ads, Google Messenger, SMS text messaging, and your office staff. So they can just simply fill out a form and it'll measure all the property for them. So it's really slick. Then we have our auto pricing automations, which everyone loves. So if you've ever sent out upsells, you know that most of the time in Service Autopilot, the only way to do that is to send out a thing that says, hey, we're offering this service this month. And if you're interested, click the button and we'll give you a quote, right? And so your office hates you for the rest of the day and you need to find something else to do other than be there because their phones are ringing off the hook and they're dealing with emails and all that type of stuff. And this solves that problem. So what happens with the auto pricing automations is we actually take the turf square footage or gross lot square footage or whatever custom field that you're using to calculate the price for that particular service. And then we plug in your pricing matrix and we determine the price for that customer. Because obviously if we're sending them an email, we probably already have their turf square footage and all that kind of stuff because at some point we've measured their property, right? So we take that, we get our price, we send it to the customer that literally has, hey, we offer this service for your property. It's X dollars. Click here to sign up. When they click that button, it takes them to a confirmation screen. And it's not really necessary, but it kind of prevents problems with people being, oh, I didn't mean to click that type thing. So that confirmation page is like, hey, I want to sign up for this. It's X dollars. And they push the button and they sign up. So what happens then is we actually send a ticket in Service Autopilot and say, hey, this customer just signed up for this service. You need to schedule the job, right? And then, of course, we send a confirmation and all those types of things to the customer. But that is what auto pricing does. It's super, super cool. Saves you an enormous amount of time. If you're like, we had a customer that did this with aeration and overseeding and sold, I don't know, I think about $60,000 off the emails. So it was a huge success. And I think the comment is that their office staff was going to like come down and hug us because it saved them so much time compared to the previous year. So the next thing, this also is really cool, was tech triggered automations. So tech triggered automations, and you can kind of see what's on the screen there, but I'm just going to kind of ramble about what it actually does. So a tech triggered automation is let's say you're out spraying a yard and you see lawn disease in the yard. The technician has a post form that they can fill out, right? So Service Autopilot has those forms that once the job's complete, it pops up and says, okay, did you see this? Did you do that? Whatever. And it's got checkboxes. So the technician literally just clicks, yes, I saw lawn disease and they need lawn disease service. So what happens is with our automations is it actually goes out first and checks to see does that customer already have lawn disease service? Because the last thing you want to do is tell a customer that they have lawn disease when they're already paying for the service, and because that's just going to make them mad, and you're going to have to send your tech back out there. So the first thing we do is check that. If they do have that service and the technician said that they had lawn disease, we actually send the technician an SMS message and say, hey, you just said that this customer has lawn disease. They're actually signed up for the service. You need to go back and treat the property. Right. And so the idea there is they shouldn't be that far away by the time they finish that form and the process runs. So it only takes like literally a minute or two, and the technician would be getting the SMS message. So ideally, they're probably either still on the property or they just left. So we did our part there to make sure that you're not sending a technician back out the next day or next week or whatever to treat the problem. Now, if they didn't, then we're actually going to send an email sequence to the customer and say, hey, my name's so-and-so, which is your technician, and I treated your property today and I noticed that there's lawn disease. And then there's like some pictures of what lawn disease looks like, that type of thing. And I would really recommend blah, 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 right? So it makes it not only personal, but it also kind of explains what the process is and all that. And now with the auto pricing that we had before this, it also sends them the price to have that lawn disease done, and it creates the 2-click upsell, right? And then the other cool thing that we do is we actually track what technicians do this. So we count how many they do, how many are converted. That way, if you're going to compensate your technicians for upselling these things, you have all the tracking built into the automations. Then we have renewal automations, and this one is really cool as well. This is so if you have a service that requires annual renewal from your customers. So some businesses do this, some people just auto renew, totally up to you. But if you do the renewal where you're asking for it, this does the same thing without auto pricing, right? So we're going to look at the pricing matrix or a custom field, which either one you want to use, and say, hey, it's time to renew. Here's the price for next year if you want to renew this, right? And then you can also, like one of our customers actually put a bunch of, or not really a bunch, but a couple of upsells. So, if they don't have a perimeter pest control package or a mosquito package, you can add those into the email and say, hey, like, this is how much it is for your 7-step fertilization weed control. And then this is how much it would be for your perimeter pest. And this is how much it would be for mosquito control, right? And so you can try to upsell them in that same renewal process. So super cool. And again, it's a 2-click, right? So they're literally, hey, yes, I want to renew. And these are the add-ons that I want. Submit, creates a ticket, and you're done. So no more having to manually do all that stuff in an Excel spreadsheet and all that garbage. It's super, super fast. So that's really all I have. Those are about the 700 or so automations that we have set up for Service Autopilot users. Again, if you have any questions or would like additional information, just book a meeting with us and we'll be happy to talk to you about it then.